Justin, I want to say, first of all, it's been a pleasure being here with you, and I want to say congratulations on an outstanding event.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been a fantastic 2 days.
Well, first of all, did the process over the 2-day period work kind of like you hoped it would?
Well, it did, and that's because we had hundreds and hundreds of Florida's leaders here, community leaders, state leaders, all together at the same place, at the same time, talking about issues that are critical to improving the quality of life in the state of Florida. So there were a lot of really interesting connections that people made, and one of the comments that I heard over and over again is there's really no other place or time that so many different diverse leaders, where a business leader and a nonprofit leader and a university professor can all be together and talk about ideas that are important to Florida together. So from that perspective, I thought it worked exactly like I had hoped it would.
Do you think that the summit helped generate new types of thinking about long-range goals for the state of Florida?
I think it did. You know, half of the summit theme, one day of the 2-day summit theme, was big, hairy, audacious Florida. And we challenged the attendees, we challenged Florida's leaders to have discussions amongst themselves about what are the big man-to-the-moon type goals that we should have as a state of Florida. That's not a conversation that typically takes place. Typically the conversation is about, well, we have this little problem here, if we have a little problem, and it's incremental. But if we're going to be a great state and truly fulfill our potential, we need to think about how truly great our state can be. And I challenged in my opening remarks of the summit the leaders here to think bigger than they've ever thought before about the state of Florida.
I was having lunch today with a gentleman who was trying out his BHAG on me and asking for feedback, and he was really excited about going into his BHAG session and really trying to persuade others that he was right about his particular BHAG. I know you must have been sticking your head in all the different BHAG sessions. Was that kind of advocacy going on?
Yes, it was. I mean, look, we have hundreds of Florida's leaders here. They wouldn't be so active in the state and their communities if they weren't passionate about whatever they are passionate about. And I found that people brought their passions, whether it was about water, or the environment, or education, or tourism, #1 industry in the state of Florida. They brought their passions here and had a good dialogue with each other in a civil and respectful way. I spoke with someone who said, listen, I didn't agree at all with the person that was sitting next to me, but it was okay because everyone benefited from hearing my perspective and from their perspective. So from that sense, I thought it worked very well.
We just heard Mika and Joe of the Morning Joe show, and Joe was talking a lot about transcending partisanship and being able to sit down and talk with people. Well, there were Democrats here, elected officials, Republicans, etc., and there didn't seem to be a bit of partisanship in discussing a lot of issues. I think perhaps you succeeded in getting an atmosphere so people could really talk.
Well, and that's it. And at the opening session, I held up this hat. Okay, I held up my Florida hat, and I said everybody needs to put their Florida hat on and take off the hat that they wear the rest of the year. And so I wanted people to bring their passion, but to check their logos at the door and put their Florida hat on and think of Florida first. And I wanted to create a space and a forum where just for 2 days, people could do that. And you know, everyone's going to go back to wherever they live in the state and whatever job they have or whatever they feel like advocating, and that's fine. But I wanted the summit to be a place where people could think of Florida first and not get into those typical political type battles, those traditional political type battles.
Well, let's just, I know we're going to, look back and try to analyze what went really right and what might not have gone as right. But thinking ahead, would you change right now any part of the process at this point?
Well, right now, I think overall, I wouldn't have changed any part of the process. I think it worked as well as I had hoped. And I think that the feedback I got from Florida's leaders was that this was needed, that they enjoyed the interaction, they enjoyed being challenged, and they enjoyed the opportunity to discuss and deliberate with each other. So I think that for the version 1.0, as I call it, we're going to innovate and we're going to keep improving it. And 2.0, I hope I can make it twice as good as version 1.0. But for the first year, I think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish.
What I like about that is we're talking about 2.0 already. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't think you were absolutely sure that you're going to do this another year. Let's talk about the process for the BHAGs and where you are and where it's going and what the visitors to the site can anticipate.
Sure.
Where are we right now as we're closing down the summit with the development of the BHAGs for Florida?
So on the Big Hairy Audacious Goals, I asked Sayfie Review readers to nominate Big Hairy Audacious Goals or BHAGs for the leaders here to discuss and to deliberate. And the leaders here discussed and deliberated the BHAGs, and now I'm going to take the top 3 Big Hairy Audacious Goals in all of the different issues, from transportation to tourism to energy to water to education to health. And I'm going to ask Sayfie Review readers now to vote on the top 3 BHAGs to see which one they think should be the #1 Big Hairy Audacious Goal for the state of Florida.
The top 3 in each area?
In each area. The top 3 in each, like, so for instance, the top 3 in higher education, I'm going to ask the Sayfie Review readers to vote on the top 3, and so we can at least be able to say the Sayfie Review readers think this should be #1.
Okay. And is that, I want to make sure I understand this.
Yeah.
The #1 overall?
#1 overall of the ones in that subject.
I got you.
So for transportation, we're going to pick the #1 Big Hairy Audacious Goal for transportation and all the other issues.
Okay. Then we have this list. A lot of thought has gone into the generation of this list, a lot of passion, advocacy. What's going to be done with that?
Well, great question. And what I will do with it is I will publish those #1s on Sayfie Review. So all of Sayfie Review readers and everybody that follows us on Twitter and on Facebook and on through our email subscription list are all going to have that. And those are thousands and thousands of Floridians who are leaders of the state. I refer to the readers of the Sayfie Review as the virtual board of directors of the state of Florida. In effect, you have leaders from government, business, nonprofit, academia, all sectors of Florida that are reading the site, and I'm offering them, as a result of this process, a Big Hairy Audacious Goal, and it's going to be up to that virtual board of directors that read Sayfie Review to then decide if they want to take those on, own them, and champion them.
Justin, as you walked among the breakout groups yesterday or the BHAG discussions today, did you pick up any overriding concerns about Florida's future coming out of these sessions?
Well, I think that there are lots of concerns about Florida's future, and it depends on the issue. Right now, tourism is going very well. Transportation, the concern seems to be about future funding. On water, the issue there is the fact that we're going to have another 1 million people coming to the state of Florida the next several years. On the issue of education, higher ed and K through 12, it's about kind of raising the standards and making sure that our students are getting a high quality education. So in each different subject area, there were different concerns that were expressed.
You know, in terms of taking these ideas, we talked about that a little bit earlier, and getting them implemented.
Right.
The legislature was here in terms of leadership and others. What will be done, really, to see if we can move these from ideas to reality?
Right, and I think that's going to be the responsibility of the leaders of our state. Through the Sayfie Review and through this summit, we convened all of them, the most diverse and unique assemblage of Florida's leaders, I think, in our state's history. And then we gave them some ideas to contemplate. So I'm putting the ideas and the state leaders together in the same place at the same time, and now it's up to them to decide what, if anything, they want to do with those ideas.
Well, what are you going to do next year?
Well, I think this year was successful. I think that a lot of people told me it was needed, and I definitely want to do another Sayfie Review Summit in 2014. It'll be version 2.0. I may not do it the same exact way that we did it this year. I want to keep evolving, I want to keep changing, I want to keep innovating, and I want to be responsive to what's needed for the state of Florida. So we'll definitely do it again next year, and stay tuned for what that's going to look like.
It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Steve. Great to be with you.